Hi, I'm Kevin Hatley and welcome to Kevin Hatley Photography in my office. This is a channel that I've set up to share my experiences of wildlife and nature with others. So let's go. Good morning and welcome to Clumber Park here in Nottinghamshire in England. I thought I'd come down to the park today to make this video. If I was to start my YouTube channel over again, this subject, the grey heron, would have been one of my first subjects that I would have covered, because if you're a beginner to bird photography, it's a brilliant subject to learn how to photograph birds due to its size and its behaviour. So what I want to do in this video is share with you my approach to photographing the grey heron, and what we'll do is we'll look at how to identify the grey heron, where to find them, the habitat that they live in, look at some of their lifestyle and their behaviour, and then finally I will share with you my top tips to photographing the grey heron. So let's go. Okay, so how do we identify the grey heron? Well, it's one of the tallest birds we have here in the UK. It's up to about 1 metre in height, or 1 metre tall. It has grey, black and white feathers, has a long orange yellow bill, has a bright yellow eye, and it has long dark pink legs. Grey herons are, as I said, one of the largest birds that most people see, and they have a wingspan of up to about 6 feet. So how do we tell the difference between the male and the female? It's quite difficult really. Males are slightly taller than the females. One identifying feature of the grey herons between male and female is the plume on the back of the head, which is known as an airgret. On the male, the airgret is longer than it is on the female. Juvenile birds are smaller and they tend to be in a darker uniform grey, and the legs are a dark grey. Another identifying feature of the grey heron is its call. Herons are generally quiet birds, but they will call during their flight and when they're alarmed. It's quite a harsh, frank or cart call, which you're about to see now. Okay, so where are we going to find the grey heron? Well, grey herons prefer habitats like lakes and rivers, ponds, canals, estuaries and wetlands, farmland and on ditches. They much prefer to patrol the edges of these features so that they can feed in. When it comes to roosting, herons tend to roost in trees. Apart from breeding, herons spend the majority of their time on their own. They will only come together in groups during the breeding season, and they will form what's known as a heronry. If you're a beginner to bird photography, try and find out where the nearest heronry is to where you are, because they're fantastic places to go to photograph these birds. The nests on these heronries are used year after year. So once they're established, they can grow in size and they can get quite big with lots of herons on them. What tends to happen is that the male will go out and search for sticks, gather them, and then he will take them back to the nest where the female will be waiting. He will then pass those sticks onto the female, and she will then start building a nest. And the nest can get to quite a size, as you will see in the video. Okay, so what do the herons eat? Well, herons will mainly eat things like fish, amphibians. They will also take small birds, voles and rodents, and I'll show you a picture that completely amazed me at the end of this section, just of what they're capable of actually eating. What herons do is the long powerful necks and the large yellow and orange pointed bill are absolutely lethal. Now, herons tend to stand completely motionless when they're fishing, and that gives you a great opportunity to get your picture. That's why they make such a great picture for beginners, because they stand still for such a long period. You see that little bit of patience and you can get some great images of herons standing still fishing. This picture here, it's not a great picture, but look at the size of that pike that's in the heron is taken. Absolutely amazing. It absolutely stunned me when I seen it, and it did swallow it in one. It got it all the way down its neck and swallowed that pike in a oneer. Unbelievable. What I want to do now is move on to my approach to photographing herons. Heron behaviour, especially when they're feeding, allows for great opportunities to get some fantastic pictures. And as I said, if you're a beginner, there's no better subject than the heron to get portrait type images. Because the birds at times can be so stationary, what that can allow you to do is to lower your shutter speed, and that in turn will lower your ISO, giving you good clear images. So my go-to settings for a heron that's stationary would be f8, because they're quite large birds. If I'm on a tripod, I would have my shutter speed down to about 1/250th of a second, and I always shoot in auto ISO. If I was handheld, the only thing that would change there would be the shutter speed, and that would be set at 1/500th of a second. When it comes to photographing herons in flight, herons tend to tuck their heads in and they take very slow wing beats. They've got a wingspan, as I said earlier, of up to about 6 foot. They're great subjects for learning bird and flight photography, and again, I can't overemphasize it enough, the heron is a great subject for beginners to photograph, both stationary and in flight. So my go-to settings for photographing a heron in flight, because they are such slow flyers, again my aperture is f8, and I would set my shutter speed to about 1/1000th of a second up to about 1/1600th of a second, depending on the light. The brighter the light, then the higher the shutter speed I would go. And I always shoot in auto ISO. What I'd like to do now is just share with you my top 5 tips to photographing herons, or the tips that I would recommend to you. Tip number 5 is to do with location. Basically, you're going to find herons in either an urban environment where they're used to people. Herons out in the countryside and rural areas tend to be a lot more skittish than their cousins who live in urban areas. So urban areas are probably the best place to get as close as possible to herons to photograph them. And the real best opportunity is if you can find a heronry, because you'll get all the behaviour that you need to be able to film. So the best place, the best location is a heronry if you can find one and get to one. Tip number 4 is to try and keep as low profile as possible, especially if you're out in a rural area where the herons can be skittish. They are very nervous. So you need to try and keep as low profile as possible, remembering that the best option for photographing them is to photograph them at eye level. Tip number 3 is to move slowly. Like the heron, as you've seen, who patrol the edges of the waters that they're fishing in, they move slowly. So once you're actually in the vicinity of a heron, try and keep your movement as slow as possible so that you don't spook them. Tip number 2 is to use a zoom lens. I found, especially when I was photographing them at the heronry, they're all over the place. One minute they're up in the trees, the next they're down searching for sticks, they're near, they're far, so the best option is to shoot with a zoom lens. I would recommend a lens in the region about 300 to 500mm to be your best option. Tip number 1 is to do with patience. As you observe herons fishing, they are very patient birds. What you need to do is you need to be able to mimic that patience. As I said, when they're feeding, they'll stand stationary for a great period of time before they actually move to strike and take a fish. So you need to be patient in your approach. So be as patient as the heron. Okay, what I want to do now is share with you some of my favourite images of the grey heron, and I hope you enjoy them.
Thanks for watching this edition of Kevin Hatley Photography and how to photograph the grey heron. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, photographing and filming it in beautiful places like this, Clumber Park, Nottinghamshire in England. All I would just ask is that if you've liked it, could you hit the like button? Could I also ask you to subscribe to my channel, Kevin Hatley Photography. It doesn't cost anything, it's completely free, and what it does, it helps me to improve my channel, and I'm glad to say that and thank all my subscribers that I reached the 2,000 mark only this week. So until the next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.